Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome back. Here we are again, the Motherhood channel. I'm Quinn Brown Huffman, and I am here with my good friend, Tanya Meeks. And today
Hi.
we have our first guest and our first person joining the conversation. And we want lots more of this to expand our conversations because motherhood is an expansive place. So Sharon Shomaker is joining us. She is a mama working her way through all the nitty gritty back to her own wellness because she says she believes in that it's really important for us to stand wholesome in our mothering and model that to our kids so they don't feel that burden. And Sharon, you say it so much better. You spoke so beautifully. But here we are, and so excited to share this conversation with you all.
Thank you.
Take it away. Let's talk, ladies.
Let's go. Let's talk. I know. Well, before we
Oh,
started, we had talked kind of about if you're taking on the track of caring for your kids from your own intuitive nature, your own individual style, maybe not in the traditional system, or if you're in the traditional system, you're still kind of maybe have, I know Quinn, you were saying you have a rebel spirit. I always have tried to do everything kind of as a one woman show. And so, how do you navigate all of those pieces of the puzzle and honor the way you want to raise your kids within all these different systems or without being in the system? And so, not that the system, does that make sense?
yeah.
I'm like, we're
Yes.
rebelling the system. I'm like, that's not what we're saying necessarily, but um, just your own
No, we're
unique
sitting
way
here.
of like honoring your kids' path and your own unique journey. And that can look a lot of different ways. You could be a public school, you could be unschooling, you could be blah blah blah, blah blah blah. So yeah.
Yeah.
I think what comes up when you say that is how important it is to just look at the impact that the systems had on us throughout our childhood and adulthood. And then how do we navigate them through that lens of wanting to either pull out of them, or if we are in them, doing the front loading to make sure that the damage isn't like passed on and that our children don't walk that same path.
Mm. Okay, so you're Sharon, you're in Costa Rica, right?
Yeah.
And are you homeschooling in out there, or are they in a school there?
No, we're in the very loosest form of the word homeschooling. So
Yeah.
they've never stepped foot in a school system. It was put on my heart when I watched a documentary when my first child was only like 2 or 3 years old. It was called The Race to Nowhere. And it just really helped me see the the effects, good or bad, without judgment. Let the experience of being in school does imprint us. And so when
Mm.
I had my eyes open to that and then looked back on my path through the education system, I just felt like it was a disservice to me. I don't feel like it allowed me to access my fullest potential. And in a sense that it overrode, or is that a word? Where it instead of me following my own unique path, I was a bit brainwashed into thinking that someone else's agenda and how I spent my time for 13 years of my life was more important and more valuable than what I felt called to do in my own life.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly how I feel. So I was just telling Tanya how I just this past few weeks went. I'm rebelling because we're in the public school system, and I
Mm-hmm.
changed. We came from Montessori in South Africa to public school Santa Monica. We chose Santa Monica because it had the most aligned
System. Yeah, yeah.
community system that I felt intuitively a lot better about it. And when my kids bring homework home, everything in me flares up, and I'm like, no, I will give you half an hour. Do as much as you can. Focus time in that if it makes you feel good. And then we're done because life is about more than that. We have other things to participate in. And we cannot get stuck in that. That is just a devastating 7 hours at school already.
Yeah.
I'm like,
It's a
come
long
on,
time.
seriously, we have a lot of playtime we need to catch up on because you spend that much time
Yeah,
in that system.
totally.
So that's where I can't, and my partner laughs at me. I'm like, no, and I'm quite dead serious. I get strict
Yeah.
on them doing their homework.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that
You're
we
going to
can
be
get on
rigid about, you're like, no, complete, backpacks away, all
your
the
life.
stuff is abort mission.
Yeah.
Yeah, work hard at school and then come home so we can live our lives and have some fun and create, because we creatives. We need to, like you say, you don't want to make a system that's for 13 years made their agenda more important than your spirit growing and bringing what you want to create in the world. I mean, and we're
Yeah.
in such an innovative space right now. And so,
Hmm.
Tanya,
Oh, you want to hear my experience? Is that what you were saying? My funny stories about.
you have
So
great story.
yeah, so I'm a single mom and I always probably knew I would do a non-traditional system. That was probably my idea. And I thought I would do like a Waldorf or a Montessori. And then I kind of brought in a child that beats to his very strong drum. Like he has his own very strong, fiery system. And it is different than mine. There's a lot of rigidity and like all kinds of things that are different than my personality that's very fluid and spontaneous and etc. But even when we've interviewed, even though I love Waldorf, even in that interview process, like he just blew that out of the way. Like he was like, nope, next, we're not doing that either. And so what I was saying, we've had different people come in and different systems where they're funny story where people are trying to do different things where it's just really dishonoring who he is or what we're saying we need. And he's super smart. So in some ways, I don't know. Do you have a good story, Quinn? I mean, do you have? I can't even talk right now. I was telling you a bunch of stories. Were you thinking of a specific story? Because now I'm just rambling on. I'm like, Quinn, tell me which story to tell right now, because otherwise I'm gonna go on a tangent. Because I'm not rigid at all.
No, so
Basically,
it's
yeah,
just it's not that, like, when someone comes in and you're trusting them with something that you don't, because we cannot do it all ourselves. I'm sorry. I
totally.
really believe in community and that there is a part for us to play and our modeling and all of that. And so you create space for, and therapists or tutors or whatever to come
Yeah, I've
in and
had.
help facilitate a learning or something. And then they go about it and they are putting everything in place that you want to go, hang on. No, 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 no. What is going on here? Then when
Yeah,
you
so
talk about how do we do that? How do we navigate when it's especially so intimate and it's in your home and
well, I think because my learning curve is to let people come in and be supportive, right? Because I want to do it all myself for my own unique journey. And my experience when I've brought people in is typically it hasn't really went like I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. They'll be like, we're gonna work on memory with him. And I'm like, he has an excellent, like beyond exceptional memory. Like it's more of like, how do you let someone guide or go, hey, this really isn't working, and pull back in a gracious way, and then find the right tribe that can come in and work in a way that really serves that unique system, right? Does that make sense? Like, so I've had different people come in where it really has felt off, and there's a place where I still have to stand and go, oh, okay, I did want your help, but actually, this doesn't feel right either. And so I had to sit with and battle, is it just me not wanting to like bring the support in because that's a hard edge for me, or is this really intuitively like a no? And so the line has been, there's been a lot of no's to get to the people that are a yes. So sometimes I've been slow to reject things because I'm like, well, I actually do need support now. Like, hey, there are pieces that I don't know how to do, like in this system. Does that make sense? There are things with his style that I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe, another personality would actually serve this, and another thing where we can both learn new things. So I've been really open to that, but there's been some very comical and not so comical events of people coming in. Just absurdity, like absurd. It'll make great one woman show material, but I'm like, is this for real? Like, is this for, like, he'll leave and he's like, why were they talking that way? Was that like, he'll look at him and they'll try to do this like positive lingo, but that's very inauthentic. Like you can tell it's not, it's like a strategy. And he'll look at him and he'll be like, why are you talking that way to me? Like, and it sounds like, and then I'm like, well, actually he's accurate with his assessment of that. I can feel the inauthenticity, even though they're modeling like positive blah blah blah. And I'm actually a therapist, and they're not therapists.
But that's the beauty of him and of you. And that's the piece that you're talking into. You muted yourself.
Yeah, I know. I was muting the background, the peanut gallery back here. I was muting the reaction. I'm muting the reaction.
We have beautiful Sparrow comes in and out. You'll learn the Sharon, where we just have to like go with it. And it's a wonderful energy that comes and goes. But that is the intuitive. And that's what I was leaning towards, is like governing all these spaces intuitively as mothers. And how do we learn to trust that part of ourselves? Yeah. How have you found yourself getting into trusting your intuition?
Yeah, I think a lot of unlearning, really, like just peeling back, looking at myself. Like, I would love to know both of your stories, how you all managed to retain a connection to your creative and to your artistic side and your confidence in putting your gifts out there, because that wasn't my story. And I actually really struggle with that. So I think I just err on swinging to the far side of the pendulum, where it's like, okay, this was done to me and it was such a disservice. I look back at like all the years I spent learning things, and I couldn't tell you most of the stuff that I learned. So to me, it was so irrelevant. And I just constantly asked, like, who would I be if I'd have been given the environment and the space and the structure to just deeply know myself? And so I just like swing to that far side, and I allow my children to just have, in a essence, like free range of their lives. Like my deepest value is for them to be like self-governed, for them to be sovereign, for me to not tell them what to do. I catch myself, like if I were to compare them to what other kids their age may know, I could really psych myself out. But when I put on the blinders and say like their level of connection to themselves, their interests, their passions, their unique flow, what like lights them up when they get bored, how they move through that boredom, like that's my driving force, is just to retain that connection to self and to source, and the belief that like they're on their own unique path. And if they reach a place where they are being pulled in a certain career or something, that the trust in them that they will pursue it because it's relevant and meaningful to them.
That's beautiful.
Oh, I love that. It makes my whole soul and heart rest. Like I've got goosebumps. That's what Tanya does to me too. It's like this, yes, we get to trust them. Oh my God. I feel so aligned and suddenly at ease, because you're right on the blinders, because a lot of times if this fucking game of comparison against kids, and now it's state testing, and you have to know an amount at a certain point in your life and milestones and and I'm like, we are working with
what doesn't actually make any sense if you really think about it pragmatically. Even like it makes no sense. If we all did testing right now, the three of us, we would all test very differently. Like it would be insane. I'd be like, well, there's a big deficit in X, Y, and Z. Like, am I going to not be able to function in the world because I have a deficit in a certain testing category? I mean,
Oh yeah.
Now,
the wonderful reflection of that, because I also go back a lot to my experience as a kid and what a little bit, and then leaning back into where I am is also all our roadmaps have been pretty much divinely a certain way for the evolution of this next generation coming in. And as their parents, really trusting them. And I love that you brought that in, Sharon, that we get to trust their path. We do not get to govern it.
Yeah.
We don't get to fear for them what the future holds, because we don't know. And it could be the most beautiful era that we're walking into. And that's what I feel super strongly about, is that we don't know. So we get to be hopeful and excited for them because they get to create it. And so I love that. I love that. Is there anything else we want to talk about? Because we're kind of running out of time.
I know the one thing I wanted to comment on that you brought up, Sharon, you were like, how do you, the both of you were asking how we hold that thread of our creative passion or present that work or stay aligned with that. And I know for me, that path has changed a lot, but I still try to stay steadfast in the fact that like, I am a creative mama. Like I created shows, and that piece is a really strong thread, even if I'm not quote unquote have all the shows on the road right now, like the one woman shows I did. It still doesn't mean that my essence and who I am is different, right? So the space and the timing, does that make sense, of how the work gets presented, or how much, or if I'm comparing it to before I was a mom and now, then I can trip out and be like, oh my God, I'm not creating because it looks, because it will look different. But I think that there's a space where different things have shown up. So I write more now than being on stage. I paint more. I have more need for physicality than ever. Like I have to walk, I have to get to the sea. So there's different pieces, because like, as my art changed, like throughout my life as a mom, then the work that I'm going to create has also changed, if that makes sense. So I think if I start to look back and try to repeat, like, oh my God, I'm not doing it unless I'm running 3 shows a month and I'm on the road and blah, 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 then it's not the same. And I can trip out, like, and think that it's different and really not have an existential crisis, but be very alarmed and have to trust that it's going to show up the way that it needs to show up now, because I do want to be a super present mom and I want to spend all this time. And I could have that if I chose to like not spend as much time, but I love spending time with my son. So that could be, but because I want both, then the spacing and the time looks different, right? For now. I don't know.
Yeah, I love that. And if you, I mean, if we want to wrap up with maybe just, yeah, so you speak into, you turn to writing and painting, and I love your paintings. You should
Thank you.
like put it behind you so we can see it all, because it is exquisite.
Oh, thanks.
And I've turned very much to my writing. I woke up as a poet after I became a mother. I only really recognized that as my language because I was writing to my kids since they were, and that woke up that piece of me, or made me recognize that in me. So that was a gift. How about you, Sharon? And then we'll wrap it up from there. Like what was
so
changed?
for me, like I guess where I guess my path or my patterns or programming was even more of a disservice, is that I loved certain things but had the programming of like, oh, that needs to be a hobby, or so I never, and I guess that's where the school system in me, I didn't value those interests of my own. I truly did not pursue things. I love dance, and I never invested a dime or time into actually pursuing them. And then so motherhood allowed me to access parts like singing to them, like writing them songs, things like that, but still never taking it public. The past year though, I found out that I was a spoken word artist, and I had never accessed that version of myself. And it is one of my most powerful ways to like put my messages into the world. And communicate, and it touches people, and it serves and it heals me so much. So my children, and like yeah, like for me, what I've realized is that motherhood is like this sacred container, this vessel of healing and transformation if we allow it to be. And so I have begun to reclaim these artistic expressions and creative expressions of myself. Because I want to deeply model that for my children, like that, holding the mirror to myself. I say, like, where am I not honoring or accessing the highest version of myself? And that was in my creative expression, and then believing that it just wasn't valuable enough to like pursue and then put into the world. So I'm just freshly reclaiming it.
I love
I love
that. Yay.
spoken word.
Yay.
It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this has been amazing, amazing,
Yes.
amazing.
Thank you for joining us. Yeah.
Chatting, sharing your experience. I know this is of value. Everyone, Spotify, YouTube, subscribe. Just subscribe and comment. We would love to be in conversation with you. And this is our connecting point. So looking forward to every episode we get to share. Sending you all just love. Thanks, Tanya.
Thank you. Big love. Thanks, Sharon, too.
Thank you
Bye.
both for allowing me to share and speak to your audience. And yeah, just the conversation's what I'm craving too.
Yeah, I think we all want to be so connected. So we want to hear from all of you and be in conversation. So big love.
Bye.